They're taking a big risk over the Air Force One line, taking a leaf out of the Dunks history books, one of the biggest shoes in Dunk history, still a four-figure shoe these days, even 15 years later. And for some reason they've decided over at Air Force One to pay a little homage to it. And we're going to talk about that in today's video. Basically, two things to look at today. One is how much of that 2005 Dunk is in this 2021 Air Force One. And the other one is where are the only two places on these Air Force Ones that tell you that it's really a ray gun. So with that being said, we'll get into this video and look at the upcoming release of the Nike Air Force One Ray Gun. This is the Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker channel. Tokyo Butter 23 Sneaker channel des. Mainichi Absuru no de, Mainichi Media Design. Every single day from Tokyo, Japan, we bring you content about upcoming sneaker releases, sneaker news, and sneaker reviews. And today is no different, but it's a little different. Usually what I do in my videos is I talk at the start about a bit about the history of the shoe, what's going on, where does it fit in with the world, blah, blah, blah. And then I get into the details of it. But I've decided to flip that. We're going to go with the details of the shoe first, and then I'll keep the history and the sort of relevance to today's sneakers to the end of the video. We're going to flip it around a little bit. So first things first, let's just dive right into these guys and talk about this right here, the 2005 Dunks. They aren't the only ray gun out there, but they are a huge shoe in the history of Dunks. And like I said, it's still a four-figure shoe. I would say this goes for resale around about $1,500 to $2,000. So it's a very iconic shoe, an important sort of milestone as far as Dunks go and ray guns go. And then today's shoe, if you look at it, there's not that many similarities really to the shoe, from 2005. A little bit in the colors, but even then the color base from 2005 was black and the color base today is white. And then on the 2005s you have that iconic little dude at the back there, whereas in today's shoe it's a basketball. So there's a lot of differences between the 2005. That's one of the questions we're asking today. A lot of differences between 2005 and today, but there is actually a 2019 pair. What I'll be able to show you here is the black pair and the white pair, and also I think it's a toddler pair as well, that came from 2019, which is a little bit closer to today's shoe, especially with that white base on it in the 2019s. And if you look at today's Air Force Ones, that white base in there as well, it kind of has more of a feel to 2019 than 2005, which is a shame because the 2005 shoe is so iconic. But that basic orange kind of reds going on in there, that's your ray gun kind of colorway, and that's what we've got coming into today's shoe. Now I said to go with the details first, and I'm going to answer that second question. Question one was how close to 2005s are these, and basically the answer is not very close at all, a little bit closer to 2019s. And then question two, what are the only two places on this shoe that tell you that it's a ray gun? I'll give you the big one first, looking down from above straight onto the inside of these guys. You can see on the insole, mismatched insoles on the left. I think it's the right foot actually, it's got Nike Air or Nike swoosh on the inside, and then on the other shoe you've got ray gun there in really big writing, so you know for sure these guys are ray guns by the insole. That's one of the places that's definitely most obvious. The other place is a little bit of a departure, but like I said, from the classic 2005 ray gun branding. On the heels you can see here what looks like just a standard basketball, and you'd be like, why is that ray guns, what's that got to do with anything? But you zoom in on that there and you can see the basketball actually has two eyes and a little mouth on there, and that classic kind of elongated alien sort of style. So that's another place that tells us that these guys are ray guns. So two places that are very much, yes, it's a ray gun, but nowhere else really. So it's kind of, to me, a little bit disappointing. They could have done a bit more with the shoe or paid a bit more homage to those 2005s than they have actually done. But I'm not a designer at Nike and I don't own my own sneaker company, more's the pity. So it's not actually my choice, it's just my opinion. And if you have a difference of opinion, let us know in the comments down below. But there's more going on in the shoe than just that. One of the major features is that the front 2/3 are leather and the back 1/3 is fabrics, and that's easiest seen on that sort of ankle strap that comes down and slices the back half of the shoe with the white at the front and then the orange at the back. And you can see there's a sort of, it's almost corduroy but not quite, and it's also got a sheen to it, which means it's definitely not corduroy, but it's definitely fabric and it's definitely not leather, and that's a major feature on the orange back third of this shoe, but also if you go around to the branding tab on the back where you can see that gold branding tab with the black branding on the top of it, that's also in that fabric effect. So the back third of the shoe giving you fabrics, whereas the front two-thirds of the shoe is in those leathers, the white leathers. And bridging those two places is the black swoosh that runs along the side of the shoe. And what's a departure, and I really looked closely at this for the 2019s and the 2005s in the dunks, because I was wondering if it was something I didn't realise, but it wasn't, is the oversized stitching that they've used around the outside edge of that black swoosh in the yellows or oranges, deep oranges, light yellows, light oranges, deep yellows, or whatever the colour is of those stitches around there. But that oversized stitching that runs around the outside of the swoosh is very important because it contrasts the orange of the back half with that lighter stitching around the swoosh, and it gives you that three-tone that you want to see in a ray gun shoe. But it's just a little bit of a nod to the third colour rather than being a full-on addition to the third colour. And I think they'd need a little bit more yellow in the shoe somewhere else to give it a bit more pop. Now they do give us a bit of that up on the tongue, so if you go and have a look at the tongues, you can see it's standard Air Force One branding up there with a bit of colour about it on top of that, with a white sort of mid-foot section of the shoe and the white lacing system with the black laces in there. You need a bit of colour, which the tongue does offer you, but they also offer you something else. If we travel all the way down to the bottom of the lacing systems where you normally see Dubrays at the bottom with an AF1, what you're seeing this time is a little swoosh on that white lacing system, giving you a bit more pop and a bit more colour to the bottom half of the shoe, because it's very, very white otherwise. But speaking of very, very white, let's go to the midsole. It's a place that we talk about with Air Force One a lot, because that's a place where they can choose whether they go with contrast or whether they go with something to complement what's going on down there. Now it's a white midsole, and the question would be, what are they going to do with the Air branding at the back end of the shoe? And in the case of these guys, they've gone with the white Air branding and the line that runs around the back of the shoe. The way to get contrast would be to make that Air banding say black or orange or yellow or something like that, so that it stands out from the white midsole. What they've gone for is white on white, so it doesn't stand out at all. I'm not a huge fan. I do like to be able to see the Air on the side of Air Force Ones, but that's just me. And then what does give you contrast, if you flip them upside down and have a look at the outsole, you can see it's a black outsole that sits underneath that white midsole unit. So all in all, looking at the shoe as a oneer, it's a very cool shoe. It's Air Force One, 38 years. Well, I suppose by the time these guys drop on January the 2nd, it'll actually be 39 years, which makes me think about 2022 and what they're going to do to celebrate 40 years of these guys, if you know what I'm saying. But the silhouette, the Air Force One silhouette, really doesn't change and hasn't changed for 38 years. And this is the classic Air Force One in its construct and its design. And what they've gone for is a couple of hits that just sort of nod towards those ray guns. But it's not a full-on kind of 100% homage to the ray guns. It's more just a hint at what was going on over there in the dunk line 15 years ago and last year, and then, well, I suppose it's 2 years as well. I keep saying last year because we're right on the cusp. I'm shooting this video for, it's what day is it? It's Boxing Day today, so it's December 26th, but the shoe itself drops on January the 2nd, so it's realistically going to be 2 years ago instead of 1 year. So things do get a bit sort of confusing at this time of year when you're talking about last year or when you're talking about this year, because the drop date is next year, but the shoot date of this video is this year, and blah blah blah. I could go on about those dates, but you get what I'm going for. So all in all, very nice looking shoe, very clean Air Force One. I know a lot of people out there like their Air Force Ones to be just a bit standard, not too much going on them, and that's exactly what this is. I think a lot of people will like the hints to ray guns without it being too much. There have been a lot of Air Force Ones recently that have gone really over the top, especially collaborations with artists. I'm thinking there's two, and I can't remember either artist's names, but they really heavily influenced what was going on in the upper, and they splashed the colour and the design all the way across the upper, which they haven't decided to do with this shoe. They've gone for a very simple, subtle sort of hint to the ray guns rather than a full-on sort of in-your-face, this is a ray gun. And I kind of think that's what people are going to like about it. The Air Force One community like their Air Force Ones done in the 38-year history of the shoe in the way it's always been, and that's what they're going to get with this guy. So I think these guys are probably actually going to do fine. they're not going to end up like 2005's ray guns and a 4-figure resale, that's for sure. I might be wrong on that's my opinion, but I don't see these guys hitting the 4-figure resale market. But I do think enough people will go after them to actually sell out pretty fast, and there'll be a lot of people that'll be happy with this purchase. It's a nice shoe and very cool. So that's everything from me today. Now I want you guys to tell me in the comments down below what you think about me flipping it up this way and doing the details of the shoe first, and then a little bit about the commentary on the shoe and its place in current shoe sales and the history of shoes and things like that. Because like I say, usually I'll do that information first and then the details of the shoe second, but today we've flipped it around and done the details first and then the information second. Let me know in the comments down below if you prefer it that way. If not, let me know that as well. I like to hear differences of opinion. It's always good to get feedback from you, the viewers out there. But that's about enough for me today. That's all I've got for you guys. Hope you appreciate the content, trying to keep it coming even though it's hard at this time of year. And we're just about staying on top of things. I was hoping this holiday I'm in would give me enough time to stock up some videos, but it's not really turning out that way. I'm still chasing my tail a little bit. So I'm going to get off. Going to get this video up into the computer. Thank you guys for checking out the content, and all that's left for me to do is to say the thing that I do at the end of every single video, which is I do this every single day, and that means that you are guaranteed to see me tomorrow.